For the P-47 ground attack, I've broken it down into two separate videos. This first video will cover the war emergency takeoff, along with dive bombing and glide bombing, and the second video will follow with rocket attacks and ground strafing. The maximum loadout you're going to carry for ground attack in the P-47 is additional 50 cal ammo, a 500 pound bomb on the centerline, 2 1,000 pound wing mounted bombs, along with 6 2.5 inch wing mounted rockets, and also recommend you take the K-14 gyroscopic gun sight. These items can all add up to a lot of weight, so on a short field you may need to use the anti-detonation injection system to ensure obstacle clearance. This is known as the war emergency power takeoff. That's what we're going to look at next. For this takeoff from the P-47, you're also going to be adding 20 degrees of flaps, and you're going to turn the ADI on. This will allow you to have an increase of up to 64 inches in manifold pressure on takeoff. Then by 120 miles an hour we're going to rotate. We'll climb at the usual 165, and then above 500 feet you're going to retract the flaps in 10 degree increments and then turn the ADI off once you reduce the power a little bit. Then you can set the throttle and prop towards your cruise settings, and you're going to manage the cow flaps as required. So as you come to a stop, tail wheel's locked, roll forward a bit, come to a complete stop, and close the canopy. Looking outside, we can extend the flaps out and see where the 20 degree marker is. So coming back inside, our oil and intercooler flaps are set, the trims are set, and then we know the throttle and turbo are linked, so we'll now turn the ADI on, propeller's full, and we're good to go. So now we're going to smoothly increase the throttle to about 30 inches while holding the brakes, where we'll stay in position for a couple of seconds. We're going to release the brakes, we start rolling, and we'll increase the power to about 64 inches of manifold pressure, using that right rudder to keep ourselves straight. A little bit of forward nose pressure, get the tail wheel off the ground, and once we reach 120 miles per hour, add some back pressure, we rotate. Get a positive rate of climb, bring the landing gear up. We're going to continue this climb, accelerating to about 165 miles an hour. We're going to get ourselves above 500 feet. Coming up on that now, we'll get the first 10 degrees of flaps out. So we'll track that by 10 degrees. Let the airplane settle, and we'll get the last 10 degrees. So now that we're all cleaned up, we can reduce the power, turn the ADI off, and then set our continuous climb settings. So now we'll look at dive bombing in the P-47. We'll be using the fixed reticule for this attack at an altitude beginning at 6,000 to 8,000 feet. We'll wing over towards the target while slowing to 150 miles per hour with idle throttle. We'll be at a 45 to 60 degree dive with your sight on the target. Once your dive is stable, you'll add lead, and then you'll release the bombs by 3,000 feet above the ground. This way you can have full power and recover by 1,000 feet. During cruise we're going to get set up, so we'll press left Alt M, that will change the gun sight. We've got the fixed reticule. Now we set up the bomb and rocket sequence. I'm going to set mine up so I drop the wings first, followed by the centerline bomb, and then we'll fire 2 rockets at a time. Left Windows B will adjust what bombs get dropped, and left Windows R will change the rocket sequence. So the target area is about our 1 o'clock or so. So if I level it out here, we can have a look out in the forward quarter on the right hand side. Zoom in, we'll see there's a couple of buildings down there. I'm going to aim for the closest building to us. So because we have a steep dive angle on this, we don't want to fly away too far laterally from the target. So in order to keep it relatively close to us, we're going to keep that target inside of where that rocket pylon is. And imagine where it's going when it passes underneath the wing. This will allow you to stay close enough to the target so when you roll in on it, you're going to have a nice dive between 45 to 60 degrees. So what I'm going to do now, bring it up into a climb, reduce the power a little bit, start rolling towards where the target's going to be. As I roll it over, I'll be at about 150 miles per hour or less. I'm going to cut the power to idle, continue rolling towards the target. I'm going to place the sight directly on the target and fly towards it in about a 45 degree dive here. Once you're stable, pull the nose up and add a little bit of lead and fly towards that point on the ground. Now the elevation here is about 500 feet, so once we reach 3,500 feet, you're going to release the bombs and begin our recovery procedure. Ideally, when you release the bomb, you're going to be doing about 320 miles per hour, and this way you can use this extra airspeed for your recovery. So now we'll have a look at how these bombs actually hit the target in external view. So here we're in our 45-degree dive, coming up on 3,000 feet. We release the bomb. Here you see both those bombs have been released. Dropping these two first is my preference, because this way during your recovery you're not going to be subject to the penalty from having the extra drag and weight of those 2,000 pound bombs. There we can see it's a direct hit and subsequent explosion. To set up for a glide bombing attack, you want to be between 2 to 2,500 feet AGL. And you'll set up for the target by placing it off your wingtip. You'll then initiate a turn towards the target and slow below 220 miles per hour. And then at the right distance, you can place your sight on the target in a 20 to 30 degree dive. Once you're stable, add some lead and then hold that lead so you can release the bombs by 5 to 700 feet AGL. Then you'll add full power and do your recovery by 75 feet AGL and jink to avoid any gunfire. So here in the recovery from our dive bombing attack, with a lot of excess energy, just doing a little bit of weaving with a climb, make it a bit harder for us to get hit. We're going to set up for a glide bombing attack on the remaining building. So right now we're a little bit high, so we'll make a descending turn to bring us down to about 2,500 feet AGL. We'll set up by placing the target towards the wingtip. Then just before the target passes under the wingtip, we'll make a turn towards it and reduce our power. This way we can reduce the speed below 220 miles for our entry speed. We'll roll out, we're expecting where the target to be. A little bit closer, then we can push the nose over, place our sight on the target in about a 20 to 30 degree dive. So once we're stable, pull the nose up, add some lead, hold that lead, fly towards that position on the ground at 500 AGL, release the bomb at full power, and then stay nice and low to avoid any gunfire. Because this is a much shallower dive angle, you want to make sure that you don't begin this dive too early, or else you come in too flat. You also need to make sure that you apply the correct amount of lead early on. This way you end up dropping the bombs in the right position. Because if you don't apply lead until very late, your dive angle is going to be too shallow for it to be an effective hit. After the bomb's released, we just continue our recovery and we jink to avoid any gunfire. During the recovery you can go as low as you want, just make sure you don't hit the ground or the trees. You continue changing directions, this way you prevent any anti-aircraft locking onto you and shooting you down. So you continue this manoeuvring until you're at a relatively safe distance, and then you can set yourself up for the next phase, which is going to be using the rockets as we see here. And then some strafing as well. And these will be covered in the next video. But I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, make sure to let me know using the like button or a comment. And don't forget, you can always be a subscriber with that notification icon. This way you'll see these new videos whenever they're released.